Hi, my name is Robin Collins, and this video is going to look at the delivery for Unit 2866, Shampoo the Hair and Scalp. In addition to this video, there are resources on Moodle available to you to develop your knowledge, and they will be a resource book, several PowerPoints, a practical video, and some quizzes that you can actually test your knowledge, test your progress, and develop your knowledge at the same time. So in this video today, we're going to be looking at the shampoo molecule and its effect on the hair shaft. We're going to be looking at the pH scale, acid and alkaline shampoos and their effect on the hair shaft. And we're also going to be looking at external conditioners and the effect of conditioner on the hair shaft. In addition to that, we will look at hair and scalp analysis, which is also in your resource book and is something you need to know in terms of your practical skill. So what is shampoo? Shampoo is a cleanser. This we know as stylists, that we use shampoo to cleanse hair. And most people have used a shampoo at some point in their life, so most people know the role of shampoo. I think what's important as a stylist is to understand the importance of shampoo and how it affects the hair shaft in terms of our services. So yes, shampoo is a cleanser and it raises the cuticle on the hair shaft. But importantly, hair has surface tension. So if we think about the structure of the hair shaft, and we just look at this little model here, the hair shaft consists of three layers. The outside scaly layer is called the cuticle. The second layer, which is usually affected by our chemical services, is called the cortex. And the middle layer, which is just lots of really loose air sacs and serves no real purpose, is called the medulla. So we have the cuticle, the cortex and the medulla. So how does shampoo affect the hair shaft? Well, on the outside of the cuticle we have surface tension. So it's a flat surface, and if we were to just wet the hair down and try and manoeuvre it, it's not as pliable and it's not as easy to work with just water. Whereas if we shampoo the hair, the purpose of shampoo is to break through that surface tension and make the hair more pliable, apart from the obvious things like cleansing the hair itself. So shampoo will break the surface tension. It also, within the structure of the hair shaft, will separate the hydrogen bonds of the hair to make the hair more bendy and pliable as well. It removes dirt, obviously, and product buildup. And how shampoo does this is part of your unit and your learning outcomes. So let's look at the shampoo molecule and see how that affects the hair shaft. The shampoo molecule is made up of two parts. And in this particular model, you'll see that we have a head and we have a tail. The head is hydrophilic, which means it's attracted to water, and the tail is hydrophobic, which means it's attracted to dirt and grime. So what's important for you to understand with our shampoos that we use in the hairdressing industry is what that shampoo molecule does to the hair and why. So with the head being attracted to the water and the tail being attracted to the grease and grime, what happens is it forms an emulsion. And I have a little model here to try and illustrate that to you. So we have this shampoo molecule with its head, which is attracted to the water, and its tail, which is attracted to grease and grime. What happens with that is the tail wraps around the head and forms an emulsion. Now when we rinse that emulsion away, we rinse the grease and grime and foreign bodies away in the emulsion. So just to recap, the shampoo molecule has a head and a tail. The head is attracted to water, the tail is attracted to oil and grime. The tail wraps around the head and creates an emulsion, and when we rinse that emulsion away, we rinse the grease and grime away. So now we're going to move on and we're going to talk about the pH scale. Now in terms of hairdressing, it is important to know that the pH scale measures acid and alkaline. So within our industry and within this unit, we're going to be looking at acid and alkaline shampoos. Before we get started with that, you need to understand the pH scale. So let's have a look at our little model here. You'll see that our pH scale diagram ranges from 0 to 14. At this end of the scale, from 0 to 7, we have acid, and from 7 to 14, we have alkaline. So the pH scale measures the amount of acidity and the amount of alkalinity. In the centre, we have 7, which is neutral. So if you have a look in your resource workbook, and you have a look at one of your PowerPoints, you'll actually see a similar diagram that actually illustrates these points. What we need to know, in addition to the pH scale, is about acid and alkaline shampoos. So let's start with an acid shampoo. An acid shampoo, being on the same end of the scale as hair, is likely to be kinder to the hair. And an acid shampoo is soapless. It is gentler on the hair shaft and doesn't strip the hair of its natural oils and doesn't raise the cuticle too excessively, making the hair dry. When we look at the effect of an alkaline shampoo, these are all soap-based. They are often the types of shampoos that you would pay less for. They're the more inexpensive shampoos because soap is less expensive to produce. Unfortunately, it comes at a cost because it's harsher on the hair shaft and raises the cuticle so much further that it can swell the hair shaft and make the hair feel dry and coarse. So, a soap-based shampoo is alkaline. It ranges between 7 and 14 and it tends to be harsh on the hair shaft. It will swell the hair shaft and raise the cuticle too far, so it will make the hair feel dry. It is important to also understand that most of the products that we use in our industry that are kind or not sensitizing on the hair shaft sit in this area here. They sit in the same area as hair, in the acidic range. The chemicals that we use in our industry, our colours, our perms, and the products that are likely to slightly sensitise hair, or if misused, really sensitise hair, tend to live in the alkaline area. And so I guess if you think about that when you're thinking about your shampoos and conditioners, the shampoos that are soap-based and are harsh on hair sit up in alkaline, and the shampoos that are kind to hair and nutritional and nourish the hair and make the hair feel really good sit down in our acid area. Moving on to conditioners. So what does a conditioner do to hair? Well, most of us are familiar with what conditioner does to hair. Essentially and primarily, it's important that you understand its physical effect on the hair shaft. So the conditioner will also affect the cuticle. Now remember, the cuticle consists of scales that are overlapping, and when they are open, they can tend to feel raspy or dry or coarse. When we use conditioner on our hair, we flatten those scales down. And if you have a look in your resource book, you'll be able to see more information about this and probably some diagrams which will help better explain. So we know a conditioner will flatten or close the cuticle. But what it also does is it places a thin waxy film on the hair to make it feel smoother and make the hair more pliable, and also to protect it from environmental factors. There are lots of other reasons we use conditioner as well. To maintain the pH of hair and maintain the nutrition and the nourishment and the health of the hair is the main reason we use conditioner. It's really important as stylists that we have hair that's nice to work with and that feels healthy and looks healthy. Because when hair feels healthy and looks healthy, we're doing our job well and it makes us look really good too. Okay, so moving on with conditioners, and just recapping, we have conditioners that sit on the outside of the hair shaft, and these are called external conditioners. Further in your qualifications, you'll look at internal conditioners, and they will come in other units. those conditioners tend to penetrate the cuticle. So for the purpose of this unit, it's important you understand that external conditioner and its effect on the hair shaft. If we move on now and we talk about the practical actions of this particular unit, I'm sure if you have been working in a salon or you're at a pre-trade training provider, you will have actually shampooed a client's hair by now. If you haven't, it's a process that you will perform with most of your services within the industry, because we need to work with clean hair to obviously be able to manipulate it and style it, or even to cut the hair. We need to actually know what the hair is going to do, and we need to shampoo the hair to do that. So, in order to shampoo the hair, we have to select a shampoo to suit the hair types. And as you're probably aware, there's a number of formulations for lots of hair types that we look at as hairdressers to suit each individual hair type. In order to be able to select your shampoo for the hair type, you need to be able to understand the different hair types and the analysis of hair. And whilst you'll look at this further when you study trichology or your more technical areas of hairdressing, today I'm just going to go briefly over what the characteristics of the hair and scalp are. So I have a little acronym which is called DPETALS. Now some training providers use the word petals. Both are correct, it's just a different way of using your acronyms. The characteristics don't change. So for hairdressers worldwide, we all look at the characteristics of the hair and scalp the same. So if I use the acronym DPETALS, the D looks at density, and that is the amount of hairs per square centimetre. And that's really important in terms of knowing what shampoos to use. Because if you used a volumizing shampoo on someone with a very thick density, you're going to have a very large head of hair. So density will impact on your selection of shampoo. Porosity, the P in DPETALS stands for porosity. And porosity defines the hair's ability to absorb moisture. If somebody's hair is particularly porous, the hair shaft's likely to be open and it's likely to absorb lots and lots of moisture. And that's going to be important in terms of what shampoo you would choose and what conditioner you would choose, because you're going to want to try and reduce that porosity and close down that hair shaft using the nice products. Elasticity talks about how far the hair will stretch and return. And a general indication, if hair has poor elasticity, so it stretches but doesn't return, it generally indicates that the hair's been sensitized and needs a really nutritious product to look after it. If hair's natural elasticity is poor, it won't be very bouncy. If hair's natural elasticity is good, it's likely to be curly, or it's likely to stretch quite a way and then return. Now you're going to read a lot more about the characteristics of the hair and scalp in your resource book. But for today I thought we'd just spend some time looking at the different characteristics. So we're up to texture, and that's important because it's about the way the hair feels. Does it feel coarse or does it feel fine? It's about the size of the hair shaft, how fat or how thin the hair shaft is. So a coarse hair shaft is likely to be slightly fatter, and a fine hair shaft is very definitely going to be a lot thinner. How that will actually impact is, if we're working with fine hair, we need to use a volumizing shampoo to help make more of the hair. Whereas if we're working with very coarse hair, then we're going to need to use a smoothing shampoo so we can narrow that hair down and make it sit a little flatter. So texture is really important. Length, probably not as important in terms of your product selection, except to say that long hair is generally sensitized. The level of protein at the hair ends has reduced, and so it's likely to be drier at the hair ends. So you might choose a slight combination in your shampoo and conditioner. You may have to use perhaps a hydrating shampoo closer to the scalp, but you may use a repair conditioner through the mid-lengths and ends, depending on the hair and scalp analysis. The S under petals stands for the state of the hair and scalp, and that's just the general state the hair is in. If the hair is highly sensitized because it's been bleached and toned and it's really sensitized and damaged, that's an overall state of the hair. We have to look at the scalp and make sure there's no abrasions, no dry scalp, no irritations, no allergies before we choose our shampoo. And that is really important. We generally would ask our client if they have any allergies, and we would generally inspect the hair to make sure that they don't have any abrasions or cuts or bruises that we need to be aware of. So the overall state of the hair and scalp will impact on your product selection, and you do need to analyse that area quite closely before you get started. So just recapping, DePetals, the acronym for the characteristics of the hair and scalp. And you can read more about this in your resource book, and there's also a PowerPoint and some quizzes around the characteristics of the hair and scalp to help you. Remember that it's really important you understand those characteristics in order to select the correct shampoo. But you also have to think about the service that you're providing for the client as well, as to what type of shampoo you may or may not select. We'd also look at probably technique in terms of the massage that you might perform for your shampoo service would also be impacted by the service to follow. So there are some cases that we wouldn't use the regular shampoo massage technique, and those cases would generally be before a colour and prior to a perm. So if you're shampooing a client to prepare the hair for a perm or a colour, you're more likely to use your hand flat and use a flat massage technique as opposed to a manipulative firm massage technique. And the reason for this is so that we don't sensitise the scalp prior to applying a chemical product, because that can actually be really quite uncomfortable for the client. So further to this, we look, and we're just going to talk very, very briefly about the practical skills involved with your shampoo service. You would greet the client, consult the client, analyse the hair and scalp. Now part of that consultation and hair and scalp analysis would be to find out what the client's having done with her hair today, so you know the right shampoo to select and the right conditioner to select. If a client was having a long hair up, for example, you wouldn't really want to be using a volumizing shampoo on their hair, because it will make it quite hard to manage. You might use a smoothing shampoo if the hair could take it, so that the hair's really nice to dress. So you have to consider what service you're going to provide prior to selecting your products, in addition to your hair and scalp analysis. Once you've done your hair and scalp analysis and you've selected your products to suit the service, you would then take the client to the basin and you would perform your shampoo service according to the manufacturer's instructions. Now if you have a look at all of your shampoo bottles, it will give you the manufacturer's instructions on the back of those bottles. I think most of you who are working in salon would really know the process is 2 shampoos. The first one breaking that surface tension and removing the first area of foreign matter and grease and grime, and the second one to really dig deep and get any product build up, thoroughly cleanse the hair and scalp, and make sure that you're going to be working with a nice clean canvas. Remember that following a shampoo, the 2 shampoos, we apply conditioner, and we're going to apply conditioner, remember, to close the cuticle, make the hair feel smooth, make the hair shiny, make the hair pliable. There's a number of reasons we use conditioner, apart from the nutritional value, and obviously to ensure that we maintain the health of the hair itself. I hope you've really enjoyed our video today. I'm just going to briefly recap on what we've looked at. We've looked at the actual reasons we use shampoo, and the fact that shampoo opens the cuticle so we can cleanse it. We've looked at the action of the shampoo molecule, the head and the tail, forming that emulsion, taking the foreign matter from the hair. We've looked at our pH scale, what it measures, acid and alkaline, how that impacts on our shampoos. Acid shampoos are gentler, alkaline shampoos are harsh. We've also looked at the characteristics of the hair and scalp, the petals, density, elasticity, porosity, texture, length and the overall state of the hair and scalp.